I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, go ahead and make a motion to approve the clerk's journal and accept the tapes as the official minutes of the September 18, 2019 Township Trustee meeting.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
All right, bills before the board this evening, make a motion to approve EFT direct deposit vouchers 1169618326 through 1169618403.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
All right, make a motion to approve payroll and withholding checks 309170006 through 3091709.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker? Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve check numbers 80643 through check number 80645.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve check numbers 80646 through 80680.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
All right. Before we open up the floor to public comments, I know we are going to be discussing the budget this evening. That's going to be coming up in our work session. If you have any questions about the budget that you would like to bring before the board now, that would be great. What we'll do is we'll take those and we'll incorporate that into our work session to answer those questions. So just wanted to state that before we get started, that we have posted that, that budget online. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to review it. If you have any questions, whether you have or not reviewed it, please feel free to ask them at this time. Our staff will take those questions down and again answer them when we get to the work session. And same for after the work session. After we get through the work session, if you have any questions to follow up on after with regards to the budget, we'll definitely take those questions and then staff will follow up with you after the meeting, make sure we get the right answer to you. And with that said, I'll go ahead and open the floor up to public comments at 6:32 p.m. Okay. I will go ahead and close the floor to public comments at 6:32 p.m. At this time, we do have our quarterly updates.
Good evening. It's been a great summer so far. Just highlight a few highlights highlight a few items that we've done worth mentioning. Obviously, this will cover July, August, September. Chief Reese and I, other members of both departments, participated in several parades throughout the community. Mainville was the Mainville and South Lebanon actually the community parades, and we did the little neighborhood HOA parades by 6:30 to 7. Sergeant Wall, Sergeant Short completed one of the FBI leader training classes. FBI leader is obviously through the FBI. It's a leadership supervision training class that is around the country. Hosting that class here at Hamilton Township has saved taxpayers about $1,200, more than that, because we don't have to send them anywhere, house them anywhere. So we had that in the basement. It was a week-long class, so we're proud of both of the gentlemen for completing that. End of July, we were invited up tomorrow for a Kids for Cops event. Tug of War, did some dunk a cop, did some different fun events for the kids. That was cool. We had an intern, Zane Smitty, who's a Little Miami grad, goes to Bowling Green University. He was with us for about 3 months, 2-3 months, and he completed his requirements. So he's back up at school. He's a great asset. He's a good kid. We had to see him go. He was fun. So he stopped here not too long ago just to say hi before he went back up to school. So that was fun. We hosted a drug take-back event for the residents over at Heritage Miami Bluffs. Sergeant Wall represented the police department in their own event. He's actually getting ready to go back in a couple weeks, I believe, and he's going to do one of the scam presentation classes that he does, elderly scam presentations. So they will receive. Of course, we had our National Night Out. It was the first Tuesday in August. We partnered with Mainville and we partnered with Morrow, and it was very well attended. It was the first time we used Odors Lake, which was neat. we ended the night with a nice fireworks show, so we appreciate that. It was, for the first time, the weather started off a little rough, if you recall. Kind of rain, thunderstorms for that first hour. Our tents are going to topple, but we survived. We had the Carver Boat Regatta as well as the Little Miami Food Truck Rally. And Mr. Sinners and I joined other law enforcement and county leaders for a groundbreaking ceremony at the jail. You heard the sheriff when he gave his state of the sheriff's office address several months ago. We were excited for that. A couple weeks ago, did an active shooter training down at the Monkey Bar. Of course, it's something we hope you never have to utilize. Mark Hoffmeyer's been a great partner and asked us to come down with all he's done down there. There's, you know, as well as I do, Friday and Saturday nights in particular, there are just, hundreds of people down there. You got a lot of folks on that patio outside, and Mark recognizes that that's what you call a soft target, and he wanted to train his staff on what to look for and be prepared in the event something like that was to happen. So they were very, very, very appreciative of the fact that we went down there. And then with just some trainings we did, typical stuff, nothing exciting. Terry Veal's involved with the Warren County Combined Training Team. So he's been the last couple of weeks helping out with other officers from around the county, doing a training for the entire county. I already told you Rich Smith is in STEP. Sergeant Rector, is in CLE. And then the other stuff is kind of Monday, just kind of routine trainings. So it's kind of it for me for the last 3 months. Questions, comments? Before I turn it over to Chief Reese.
Any updates on stats or break-in
Uh,
or service?
I think we tend to do stats at the second meeting of the month. So I don't think any of us are
online.
prepared to do stats. Yeah, we put the stats up online, I think, each month. But I think next month we were going to do the monthly updates with that stats. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have to give a shout out to Captain Gardner. I always thought that was an awesome picture he took right there on, I was out at Miller's Lake for National Night Out. Summertime, obviously, we did 6 events on July 4th throughout the community. And August 1st was our 25th anniversary. We had a pretty good turnout. We had Dale Martinet, who was he's like the historian for the Mainville Fire Company, and got a lot of feedback on just how neat it was to have all that historical items there and pictures, and actually have someone who was first person to tell the story. So it was a good turnout for our 25th. And then we did the food truck rally. In September was the antique antique tractor equipment out of Odors. We were out there for that, and the chief here took first place with the public safety tractor pull. And okay, so earlier at the beginning of this quarter, the Insurance Services Office comes out about every 5 years, and what they do is they evaluate your fire department, and they visit all fire departments about every 5 years. And what they look at is they look at your equipment, your staffing, water response times, dispatching, and they give you a rating. It used to be that this rating was very heavily weighted in your homeowner's insurance rates. Not quite so much anymore. My understanding is, with the research I've done, that number's in there somewhere, but insurance companies typically look at losses for the area. That's how they set rates. But it's also a way to determine how your fire department is doing. Classes are 1 to 9. We are class 3, and a lot of the rating is based on your water supply. So because of our rural area, we have a 3-3Y. So the 3 is for our area that has hydrants, and the 3Y is for the area that does not have hydrants. So we get credit for having a full-time staff fire department and the equipment that we have and the dispatching. But again, water is probably one of the most primary scoring elements in this assessment. That was, by the way, that was Captain Schumacher, who has dealt with this before, and We really don't expect things to change. We're probably going to stay at 33 wide this time around as well. Training activities, I've got two of the big ones we've done. It takes some time to get through this and hit everyone, but pediatric advanced life support is something we go through every 2 years, and we really hone in on infants, toddlers, and children up to 12 years of age, discussing the various differences in treating them as opposed to adults, and drug dosages and those type of things, and good assessment procedures. We finished it. It took us almost overall 2 months to get through all that. And the other one, you probably noticed out at Station 77, the bus is finally missing. We finally got that out, and with the help of Kenny's crew down there, they would go down and set that bus up, and the cars can fits deliver and put on some different scenarios for heavy rescue and being able to stabilize and extricate people out of some very odd scenarios. And going back to the EMS training, I have to say that Captain Goodpaster is really trying to mix it up a lot for us, and he did a trauma training for us based off of the movie The Avengers, one of the Avengers movies, and he would show a clip of a part of the movies, and then he would have the mannequin made up with like a sword through it or an axe in its head or something like that, and the crew had to determine how to treat that and stabilize that and get it to the hospital. It was a lot of fun. So innovation-wise, so this year with our EMS grant that we get yearly, we purchased the CPR feedback devices. American Heart Association has determined through research and everything that optimal CPR is critical in every cardiac arrest. Without good CPR, the drugs and other interventions we do have very little hope of working. So this device here is reusable. It has a double-sided tape on the back of it that you change out, but you place this on the chest, and this tells you how deep your compressions are. Are you releasing off the chest the way you're supposed to, and your rate? So we now can use this when we're doing CPR to make sure that we're doing optimal CPR and doing our best for the patient. And this is becoming standard of care. There are devices that you can hook into your EKG machines and monitor that as well on there. So just a list of other things that happened over the last quarter. Captain Goodpaster is part of a committee with the state EMS board, where they do reviews of items that could affect all the certificates for the paramedics and just how we operate up the street from day to day on a state level. He had his first committee meeting back in August. Captain Goodpaster and Parlano also attended the first Warren County EMS Supervisors Committee. That's something that was just created, and it's going to give them a forum and an ability to speak with other departments in the area and the things that affect us locally, and how we can make it better and keep things going well. We also have developed a new QA process for our EMS reports through the county that allows our EMS, or allows our overseeing physician to review our reports quicker, give us feedback quicker, and for us to be able to contact and give him information as well through the system. The Firefighters Local was looking for some things to do out in the community, and was able to come up, purchase and donate some playground equipment for the little mining schools, which they were in need of. And then every year, just before the Warren County Fair, the fire chief from Lebanon puts out an email, says help. We've got all this stuff going on at the fair, we need help, and we were able to send a crew up there this year to help provide some EMS one night. In July was our busiest month of the year, and from what I can tell, it's the busiest month we've had so far with 233 calls. So far this year, we're averaging 200, actually, obviously that's the number off there. We're averaging 203 calls a month, where last year we were averaging about 192 calls per month. So we are getting busier. Cool. you start that? I'm supposed to start automatically. Firehouse is going great. Obviously, you can see the big lightning rod as it grows up over here. A lot of metal in the air right there. But we've got the roof covering going. All our meetings are going well. We're on track. They keep saying we're looking at a March move-in date. They've got their subs lined up. They're getting materials on site. So that's all going well. We've just had a couple of hiccups about like our training fire hydrant that I had on site. We had to move that. And actually, I think it might be a better spot where we move it to rather than where we had it planned. I kind of like it. And let's see, what was the other one? Oh, up on the mezzanine, where we're putting in some training ideas that we had. We had to adjust the door size, but pretty much it's going very smoothly. And I have to give a shout out for Mark Shoemaker from KZF, who is our representative, our criteria architect, and he's done some pretty awesome work for us out there as well, keeping track of things and advising me on different things. So with that, do you have any questions?
On a scale of 1 to 9,
Yeah.
I'm assuming 1's the best.
One's the best.
3.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe Loveland has reached 1. Can you confirm that for me or
What
not?
was the question?
Loveland Fire has reached
ISO 2.
ISO 2? Okay, I thought they reached 1, but okay.
Well, if they have, it's been recent. I don't know that. They've always been a 2.
Yeah.
So
Deerfield's a 2.
the ones were departments like Los Angeles,
Yeah.
Oakland, California, New York that has 5 men on each truck, 50 trucks going to every fire,
And hydrants throughout.
and 500 feet.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief. Well, good evening. I want to give you a quick update on some development going on around the township. I'm calling this month the groundbreaking month, and so it's good to see you all at the Little Miami Intermediate School groundbreaking this morning. But that went really well. Before it was 1,000,000 degrees outside, so that was nice. So this is right here, Alexander Point. So that groundbreaking happened. Little Miami School happened today, and actually Alexander Point, the apartment complex there on State Route 22 and 3 in Willow Pond on the corner there. We actually have given permit, the developer has their heavy equipment now arriving on site, and they're going to start moving dirt probably tomorrow at the latest on Friday. So that's going to start here this week. And up here you can see it's 144 total units in 9 buildings. There are 2 buildings that are slightly larger than the other 7, and but zoom in here, you can see where the clubhouse is right here. And they're going to have that's going to be built first. And they're going to swing around this way and build kind of in a circular fashion. And I think they're going to put the pool in sometime next spring or summer. They have that ready.
So they're gonna go along the wooded edge.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, okay. That's in the first phase.
So next up, we have the Vote Advantage 55 Plus, which is just across the street from us here at 7905 South State Route 48. Again, that was Jody Embergy and George Hagan who came here to present and provided all of that. This groundbreaking is on October 23rd. We're pretty excited about that one. We will be there for that. So look forward to being there with as many of you as can make it. And again, that is going to be 4 different structures and 10 units in each structure that centers around an outdoor courtyard, which is going to be really nice for the residents to be able to have that courtyard to go outside and have a little bit more room and to mingle with some of the folks in the facility with them. Went by Shooter's Sports and Grill today, so that's the picture from today. You can see it's going along pretty well. It's going to look like that down there at the bottom. We've approved their signs as well. So the goal for them is to be open by the end of 2019. Not sure if they'll get there, but that's the goal. So they're working hard, and we'll see if they can get up and get open. So I wanted to highlight the old Sumco property, which we're now calling Little Miami Industrial Park. When I first started here, I saw a real need for this site to be promoted more throughout some of our networks that we have in the region, with Ready Cincinnati, Warren County, Jobs Ohio, and those kind of organizations. So what they actually have going on is a program where you submit sites, you can apply and submit a site to this. It's called a mock site visit. So they're going to actually have a site selector come out and go through as if they were the client looking at the site, if they were looking for manufacturing location or distribution or something in that regard. And we're going to have everything ready. I'm going to get everything ready for it, just like we were going to have a real site visit. And so basically we'll be graded on how the site looks, our utility information, everything. What all do we have? Do we have all the information we need? But most importantly, what's missing, what we can improve upon, those kinds of things, just to make sure we have a really good site ready for that right user, that right end user to come in and be wowed by our site. Some of the advantages of participating in this program, again, it just provides the accurate information we need for an RFI, a request for information, how to fill out the best way possible, so that we don't get left out of some companies' searches. Just better understanding of the site selection process in general from the client's perspective, what they typically look for, best practices that we can follow, those kinds of things. Additionally, the final piece to this is if we want to, as a township, as a community, for this location, we could potentially enter into what's called the Site Ohio Authentication Portal Program. There are 18 authenticated sites in Ohio right now. There's only one in Southwest Ohio, and that's in Claremont County. They own that land. But they've been able to market that as a authenticated site. What that means is that they have all the utilities on the site, all due diligence studies are completed, all the environmentals and state and federal entities, everything is in compliance. And basically, it's ready to go, ready to be constructed on from day one. My educated guess is that's what they're going to tell us, that we need to clean the site up a little bit more. But we'll see what happens with the site visit. That's going to be in early December of 2019. So pretty excited about that. And I wanted to bring up real quickly our economic development website. It's something I wanted to get going. If you look on it now, it still says, still coming, under development or something funny. But I'm really still going around getting testimonials and success stories from our local businesses here. I want to put that up there. I want to get as many sites as we can on that, which will be a link to the sites, buildings as well. Get some community statistics on there. We want to really promote that we have 30,000 residents and we're an affluent community. We're not that far off the highway, those kinds of things. We have 2 state routes that intersect in our township. Want to put on some business resources, for SBA 504 program, other potential incentives, things like that can help businesses starting out or that come here. And then I also want to put on some of our current development projects that I just mentioned. I think it's important to have that on there to show that we're doing things in the township. The comprehensive plan I haven't really been too involved in, just being here for a little over a month. But we do have, that's coming up at our meeting next Tuesday with the Regional Planning Commission. That's going to roll out in November from what I understand, and looking really forward to having that as a guideline for us for our future growth in the township. So that's mainly it for me. Does anybody have any questions on any of that stuff?
Appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you. Kenny, you want next?
All right, I'm just going to go over some of the stuff. That summer has been very, very busy for us as well. Trying to get a lot of projects in while it's summer and not raining as much. Some of the stuff we've done, mowed and trimmed the community garden. We try to keep that we try to keep up with that every week on that, just to kind of help with maintaining the way it looks of the aesthetics of it. We did have the fence installed on there, and also had the privacy, the netting as well, so it helped keep with the aesthetics of it. We were mowed the right-of-ways on the main roads, trim trees, blocking stop signs as the requirements through the Ohio Manual of Traffic Control Devices. We gotta keep those clear and open so people can, obviously stop and make sure we don't have any accidents. One big thing we did this year, or this quarter, was we added 60 foot of a 12-inch pipe in the backside of the admin. I got some pictures here to show, to help with the big thing was it was such a big hill. My guys had a weed eat. It take time to do that. Drainage was bad. I mean, it was a swamp, more to say. It's a mosquito area, so we tried to clear that up. So what we did is we added 60 foot of the 12-inch pipe to go through there along with the clean out catch. And when I get through there, I'll show you what that is. Ditch between 8264 and 8308 60 Road. That was another big area we had that was holding a lot of water. Installed new deer crossing signs on Stevens Road. We was having a lot of accidents out on Stevens there where deer were coming across. But Trustee Cordry asked us to install those, and it was a good thing to have because of so many accidents and the deer that crossed through there. Replaced the 12-inch driveway pipe at 10906 Grove Run Road, just some of our routine stuff. Here's some of the pictures. As you can see how steep it is, it was hard for my guys to try to weed eat that. Mowing it was impossible. We did do a clean out as well, catch basin. And that's what it looks like there after we've got done finished. We're gonna let that settle, get some water on it, because as it's been so dry, we really don't know what we have yet. We gotta get some settlement. And then we are gonna start cleaning off the back side of that. If you see the little dirt mound back here still, we do have a little bit of dirt mound. We are gonna move that out eventually. Once the firehouse gets in, we're gonna try to level out the best we can on that. In the parks, mowed and trimmed Marv Park, Mounts, Testament, and Stubbs Mill. Mowed and trimmed the dog park. Mowed and trimmed the community gardens. Applied the layer of Roto Mill and the radius of Mounts Park. We was having a lot of problems with the potholes and with having the sunflower garden and all that. We wanted to try to get as smooth a transition as possible to get people in there. Repaired holes in the fence at the dog park. As that fence is getting older, dogs also like to fall on it. So it's just some of our routine maintenance upkeep on that. Prep the championship field. We should be wrapping up with that at the end of October. Mr. Barnhill still does have it's adult baseball up there on Wednesdays and Sundays. So we still are prepping that, but we should be finishing up with that at the end of October. And then applied a layer of gravel along the walk trail at Teshman. That is a heavily walked area, running area that people like to use. A little bit over a mile there, so we actually applied gravel there. We was getting a lot of grass overgrown, so we applied some gravel there as well to help keep with the aesthetics of that. Cemetery, cleaned up the old flowers and decoration. That's something we do once a month on that. Added topsoil to the graves with 4th of July, and trying to keep the upkeeps of the grave itself, and add straw new graves and seed it. And we only performed one burial during that time. Other than that, that's all I've got. You guys got any questions for me?
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Steichen-Scriver.
Good evening, gentlemen. Captain Conley is currently employed with the fire department. He's requested an FMLA, a family medical leave. It will begin it began on September 23rd, and he will be out for approximately 4 weeks. He'll utilize his paid sick time on his FMLA, so I request a motion to approve him to be out effective September 23rd for approximately 4 weeks.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Next, gentlemen, I request a motion to remove part-time firefighter paramedic David Jackson from the Hamilton Township roster effective September 27th. Mr. Jackson submitted his formal resignation.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
And finally, gentlemen, I request a motion to hire part-time firefighter paramedic Jesse Strom pending a successful completion of a full background in CBSA.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to current township business. We do have one motion to consider this evening, and that's with regards to the request to create a position of the administrative assistant for public works department. This is a continuation actually of a discussion we had 2 weeks ago at the fire trustee meeting. So, do you guys have any follow-up questions or anything?
Well, the first one, I think this budget impact is kind of misleading. I mean, is that 32 to 37, that's the salary, right?
Correct.
Okay, so then you're gonna have health insurance on that plus retirement. So really, you're looking at what, 60, 65,000?
Somewhere
And then a week ago, 10 days ago, me and you had a discussion about changing the job description, and you were supposed to get it from Brent. Kind of get back with me, I've never heard anything more since the discussion. So, do we want?
And with what we have as an assistant here, after Brent and I did talk about that, we decided it would be better just to keep it as this way, because trying to flex it in and out would be feasible for what we were trying to keep this as, for more of an assistant on that.
We went through kind of 3 different options we discussed. One was just creating a part-time position. You know, obviously they go again, the benefits and retirement and all that, and drop your salary, but there's enough work there that it just, we didn't see it would be a good use. And then having to make sure there was a good kind of turnover back to Kenny on what that person got accomplished or didn't get accomplished for the next person to come in and do it. Part-time, we just didn't feel would work, just because there's enough work for a full-time worker. We considered, based on your conversation, potentially using the service worker that's already budgeted to hire as service worker / administrative assistant. The salary would be half of that time. We'd be paying a service worker 2 salary for administrative work. We didn't like that idea of kind of getting less work for more money. And we also believe we'd be running into some labor negotiation issues by doing a service worker / different employee. And finally, we talked about Ms. Gearing. Lindsay didn't know that, but we talked about Lindsay taking on the job. Lindsay has, you know, I could put a little more on Lindsay, but no way could we put this on her. She already has plenty to do. You know, there's during the audit or the budget, we can put a little more work. During a development project, we put a little more work. That's what she's there for, to put a full-time load of public works work on top of her current workload. Just wouldn't be possible. So that was our discussions, and we ultimately came back to believing this is the best option for administrative assistant for Kenny.
But in the process, you're still gonna hire a service worker too then, right?
Yes.
So, and that's gonna be what, 80 to 100 a year?
That's already budgeted
Yeah,
from
well, I
last
understand
year.
that. So technically, we're creating 2 positions now,
Yep, that would be correct.
close to, I don't know, I personally, I still have a hard time, a full-time position, doing paperwork. So, I mean, that's just my thoughts. I still don't understand why you can't take a service worker and have him do work a couple days a week. I mean, our company, that's what makes things so successful. You got different people who do a different thing. It's like he told me, he would be more of a non-union type employee. And yeah, I understand you have to work the union employees first, but it just better utilizes our people instead of just people set for key issues. So, what do you got?
Like what you're saying, what are the union issues though?
Nothing was specific. We would have to create a completely different position, which would then have an additional labor issue with it, where we'd have to negotiate separate for that.
Is this current position a non-union position?
It would be, the administrative
So-
assistant would be the service worker, of course.
So if we were to hire a service worker, to Mr. Walker's point, then we would be paying union scale, union benefits for that position.
Yes, for the service worker.
Right.
And
If
right
whatever we
now,
were assigning to do job-wise, whether it's within, I mean, obviously, we do have contractual obligations, there's only certain things they can do within their union contract. I don't know if this would even be a part of that, if they would be able to do this per se as a full-time, but we would be on the union scale, union benefits, everything to have, to dedicate a service worker to do this.
Correct, if we did a service worker split.
Right.
Also, Kenny's been here 19 years, is that right? Same amount of service workers from then to now. So you could give us 5 more service workers and we could use them tomorrow. So we definitely want to use our service worker for the field. I mean, there's plenty of work out there, just like we believe there's plenty of administrative work back there as well. But
So this is doing the paperwork of how many people?
It'll be 3,
Three different people.
at least. Probably 4, counting the cemeteries too.
And this is to free not only the current service workers up, but that'll also take some things off of your plate where you can.
Myself, my road supervisor, my mechanic, and then also helping with cemeteries, because we just ran into a couple other issues as far as the papers just today, and it took us about a half a day to just get it figured out.
And when I say that, I don't mean like, that means you have a less, you won't have something to do, it's that you have other duties and within the public works department that would be better spent your time doing that than doing paperwork.
absolutely. Today, it pulled Kenny and the mechanic out of the garage until that issue got fixed. We have vehicles that get backed up sometimes because every job the mechanic has to log, plus do the bills for it himself. And that's just the mechanic, that doesn't include the road supervisor, and we've all seen Kenny's truck here lately. And that's not turning a wrench or digging a ditch, that's paying bills. That's all administrative work.
Yeah, I've seen his truck here quite often, right? Also, you get what Mr. Walker is saying, I mean, I'm in the same position, we have to wear many hats. A bit of a different situation. That's all I got.
Well, my only thing is like this one, if you have a multi-use person, it's like when it does come with snow plow, you can call them out, get them out snow plowing instead of somebody just sitting there doing paperwork. It's just me, that's the way I operate.
Kenny?
It's a different environment, different world.
Can he drive a snowplow? Because that's typically, well, the most of the time off hours.
Well,
Or is he only specific to doing paperwork? Does that get into another
as far as
issue?
this is when we're doing a non-union, that's where you get, if you start pushing somebody into snow plowing, that's a union position, and you have to be very careful.
Gotcha.
You'd be pulling their overtime.
I get you.
But Jimmy's not a union, doesn't he do the snow plowing?
Yeah, but they opted out. But the thing is, if you put this position into the union, they have a chance to be in the union or they can opt out. And that's what Jimmy and Chris have done. They have opted out of the union. But that's something they can do, but that's at their choice, not, we can't take them out of the union. That has to be their choice. And what we're looking at with this, we're looking at somebody that has Excel, Access, Microsoft, that kind of stuff. And when you gear somebody towards that position, that's what I'm really looking at, to have somebody with that specialty, you know, not per se as much as a road crew, but something that specializes and knows how to create these programs, because I create a lot of the programs myself. And that would take the time off of my hands of having to do that every time, creating my access program and formulating that as well. And scheduling that as well.
Well, I know things have changed in the township, and like I told you the other day, you know, we hired Don to take some stuff off of you, and then next thing you know, we got you as assistant administrator taking stuff off of Brent. It just seems like we just keep hiring paperwork type people. And it's just another, you know, $60,000, $70,000 a year. And I guess I'm not there seeing it, but I just can't imagine that much 20 or 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year of input and paperwork. And I know what I remember you said, yeah, well, they'll go out in the field with us and take notes and things like that, but I just have a hard time with it. And nothing against you or your department or how you run it, but that's just, you know, once again, this is the taxpayers' money, and we do have a lot of issues coming ahead of us with Mounds Park and things like that, and
Thank you, Joe.
that's where I'm at. I mean, if we create a multi-position to accomplish that, I'm okay with it, but this I'm just one voice, so.
No, I honestly, where I'm at this point is that I think, again, this is kind of, for me, is, again, where we're working towards kind of right-sizing the township, right-sizing our services, to Mr. Center's point, Kenny, with regards to, staffing side, we haven't changed staffing in the Public Works Department in 19 years. Yet we've increased our roads that, we have to take care of, snow plowing, just things of that nature, so it's to be expected that there's an increase of paperwork, there's an increase of this or that. I know we're gonna get to the budget here, later, and with that, I think that was taken into account, and, I'm satisfied with the need of the position. If for some reason, at some point, we continue to evaluate, obviously, and we find out we don't need it, or we need less, then I think this board would be more than happy to, look at that again and address it at that point. But right now, I again feel like it's, again, as we, to Mr. Walker's point, we've added staff members, we've added additional duties for you and whatnot. Again, it's a push to get us to, I think, the size and kind of to match where we're at as a township at this point.
Yeah, I get your point about paperwork. I got a full-time compliance guy. Deals with every three-letter government agency on the planet. And that's all he does is jockey paperwork and make sure people are in compliance with what they're doing. If it was just taking over the duties of one person or two people, but he's helping out with paperwork for 3 different divisions within your department, which is an enormous amount of documentation. But I get your point too. It's changing. The world's changing. Everything's got to be documented. Documented. That's all I have.
All right, with that, I will go ahead and make a motion to create and post the job description of administrative assistant for the Public Works Department.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Rousey?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
No.
All right, we are gonna go ahead and move on to the work session item this evening. Once again, I'll just, if you, at the end, when we go into public comments, if you have any questions after we get through the budget, please feel free to come up and ask those questions. We'll definitely have staff take those down and then get back with you to answer those. Beforehand, I do want to thank the staff and Ellen for working on this budget. I believe this is probably the earliest that this board's ever seen this budget, and the turnaround time and the effort that was put in by Ellen and our department heads to get this to us is greatly appreciated. I know this has been a big push to this board to be transparent with our budget, to be able to have this lead time to have this discussion. We're not voting on this budget tonight. This is the work session to discuss. This may very well change in some way, shape, and form in certain areas. But it's greatly appreciated for the hard work that the entire staff put in getting this to this board so we could have this tonight and have some real time to consider it as a board. So thank you. And with that, we'll begin with the review of the budget.
So my plan was to go through each capital item so that you could explain them one at a time and let you guys discuss them, or would you like me just to run through all the capital items that we were proposing, discuss it then, and following that I'm going to go through each budget and any kind of major increase or decrease, but that's going to be very boring. So right now I'm just going to stick to the capital so you guys can see. So I'm going to just do it one at a time and then go for it. All right. First one, I'll go in general first. General budget first. We'll go out of machinery and equipment. We're actually looking at the parks section of the machinery and equipment for a zero-turn mower. That's a $55,000 mower that come up from $16,750 last year budgeted up to $55,000, but it would take the entire project to get to $55,000. That zero turn, as you know, we're hiring a third seasonal for 2020. That will be dedicated to Mounts Park and to Testerman Park. The mower we currently have mows 11 acres. The different, 8.7 acres an hour, where this one would offset that by 18.4 acres a day, 92 acres a week. So we would offset that by being able to open the back, which we're going to do, we could increase the mowing on the back, Big Lake at Mount, plus all the Testerman mowing as well. So the increase in efficiency, the bat wing, we did lose one of the mowers on that we're not going to replace this year. So that also lost, there's 3 big blades on that one. now we're down to 2. So with all sufficiency there, this would be one capital project out of the general, would be
What
dedicated.
kind of equipment is it? I mean, 55,000, that'll be a pretty good size mower.
Yeah,
Finish mower.
Yep, it's a John Deere finish
It's a
mower.
battling finish mower.
What's it cutting with?
And this also moves more park as well.
3.7.
And then like the batwing mower that went down, there,
16 feet.
you can't buy parts for it anymore, you can't, I mean, I buy gearboxes all the time for ours.
So
It was busted.
this had an accident on it, and it actually ripped one of the wings off of it totally. To build it back up, it's gonna cost more than what
How
it
does
was
it
worth.
act, what happened on the accident?
Our seasonal at that time hit a tree, and it actually whacked it, all of it, actually knocked the whole thing back and bent the bracketry and all that off. It just broke it off, it hit pretty hard,
Wasn't aware of that.
yeah.
That's one major capital project out of the general fund. The other one, this one's small. We had $35,000 in capital project for last year. That was for the roof. We ended up, instead of replacing the roof for $35,000, had them fix it for $5,000. So at some point that's gonna come, but we think the fix is a decently short-term, 5-year fix. So from $35,000 down to $6,500, but that's just a tile, this back section here, just original tile from the building. It's just starting to get torn up where we used to have different, fridge and stuff, and that all got moved, so it's just getting torn up. Kind of a small capital project, but that one's in there. Supplies and materials, this would be for the one vehicle that the administrative side has, we use it for zoning. It's the red vehicle out here. It would be to wrap that. If you've seen, the Public Works Department has transitioned all their vehicles to the new logo. We've given the department heads instruction to, by the end of 2021, to have everything transitioned over. We only have one vehicle in admin, so this would be ours. We're going to budget for $3,000. We think one of our service workers who has a background in auto body can scuff and paint it for $1,500-ish, plus the logo, the decal on the side. He's done work like that for other vehicles in the township, and it's very, very professional and good. So we think we'd come in under this, but that's what that project would be there for. Improving the sites from $30,000, and that was the resurfacing of the parking lot, dropping that down to $25,000, but that's for air conditioning repairs and other building maintenance. This we hope to not use at all, but we have 14, well, admin has 9, and the police have their own AC units. We had a couple scares this year, so we want some money there in case. We know one's really on the fritz, but a couple. If they go down, we want to have money there, so we don't have to reappropriate it. If we don't, then that money should be sitting there at the end of the year unless there's small little maintenance things around the building. So that's more preventive money than anything. Dues and fees, that didn't change, $15,000 to match. The police department's $15,000 for the drug task force. It didn't change, I still wanted to put it out there since it is a capital item. And Parks and Rec, we upped the $10,000 to $11,500. More kind of good faith money. We don't have a specific line item, but as we know, the board is a park-driven board, and with a lot of volunteer hours, sunflower fields. We're going to do the walking trail. We're opening the big lake. Playground equipment, always use it. So that's just, we're just going to put a little bit more money in there. We don't have an itemized list for it, but that's what that's in there for. That's the general. You want to move on to police, or do you want to discuss that first?
Back on the 55,000 mower, 55,000. I just gotta, I'm trying to see what kind of mower it is.
Oh, yeah, you have to text.
And then who's gonna be running that?
That would be our seasonals, that would be. And that's at our discounted rate.
That's a discounted rate?
Our SDS.
What's the cutting limit?
Right now,
No, on this mower.
Should be
16 feet? 16 feet. So what are the training, is there training requirements for the guy to run a mower? I mean, I get it, it's a mower and you're cutting a wide open field, but the last guy hits trees.
And, I mean, to be honest with you, we can have training done on that. I mean, if we could pay for the class to have that done. I'm sure once we get it.
Is there
it will help
something
us.
you can do, or Don can do as far as
Yes.
ensuring that you understand?
And this one was.
I'm not trying to sound,
Well,
ridiculous.
yeah,
but
the other one
That's a $55,000 piece of equipment.
Right, and the last bat one was at Mar Park. You know, we have certain speeds, we want the seasonal to keep it under. Kenny trains everyone on how to operate it, what speeds they're supposed to be going at. We believe that this was exceeding that speed, so it was out of line. We did send off for a drug test and everything, just like with a vehicle crash, because the damage was so extensive. So, yeah, this wasn't like a small little button.
And it was a rear mount
It was a
mower too. That's a front mount, so they will actually see everything. One benefit with that, we actually can raise up the wing on, if we're having to go in certain areas without having to both down. On the other one, we could not do that.
Mr. Summers, I think it would actually be helpful as we go through, like you did the capital progress, to go ahead and let's talk about the general budget, just kind of match them up that way, just so that way we can
I can do that.
kind of start it off a little bit. I think that
We're
would
still
help.
on the mower right now.
Well, no, that's fine, I just want that out there, since we're talking about general capital budgets, to go ahead and talk about the general budget itself, just kind of tie that together.
Okay.
I guess my thing back on the mower, and we own a golf course, I know a lot about mowers and what goes on. I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job. But you said, was this a pull-behind batwing mower?
It was.
So wouldn't it be a lot cheaper just to go buy a new pull-behind mower and use a mower that, or the tractor you got?
We can, but that's more efficient. That's the hydrostatic compared to this one's belt driven. And we actually put 3 times the amount of money into this one is what it
But
was.
once again, because, and I'm not saying I'm an expert, but these hydraulic things and the amount of mowing you do with them, there are a lot of problems. They don't stand the heat. They don't stand the constant daily wear and tear. And they didn't work very well for a golf course, so.
Little Miami's got 3 of them, and that's where we.
But do they use them every day?
Yes.
Well, I think too, the big thing is too, is, I mean, I'm sure we'll continue to shop, we're not voting on dead set on that model either, but we're allocating that.
Shop.
Well,
I
I
want to
mean,
be clear, this is the one we're gonna get. We did shop around
We
quite a
did
bit.
shop around, we looked at.
I didn't mean to
four
interrupt
areas.
you, but we shopped a lot to get to that one. So this is the one we are proposing.
okay, well, we're not deciding that tonight, so I'd
Right.
say, you know, if there's further questions on the specific model, I think that's something the board can address and look at beforehand. If that's a concern, I mean, I'm not an overdraft by any stretch, so, but I mean, if that's a concern, I think that's a concern we can talk through as a board and alleviate and make that decision. But still allocate the money to, because it's equipment that we need, I think that's I'd say the bigger picture item is that with this budget is that we're allocating this money for a mower for the parks.
It just happens kind of the general,
Right.
because the parks is in the general.
Correct.
So you want me to go through the general budget now?
Yeah, I would say go ahead and
Okay.
get through the general budget, then we can kind of sum it up, and if there's any questions on that, then we can move on to.
Okay. So this was online, so I think people in the audience have it, of course you gentlemen have it. It's just really important to remember this is a budget document. The actual numbers, the year-to-date numbers, that's not in the 2019. That's in what Mr. Hunter reports every month. Your appropriation summary, that's your actual year-to-date spending. This is what we've budgeted for 2019, not what we spent year-to-date. 2017, 2018 lines, those are actual. 2019 is what we budgeted. Mr. Hunter presents the year-to-date, 2020 is proposed. So just to make sure we're all on the same page as I'm going through this. Revenues, these are set by the Warren County, so you can kind of go down through them. They're set. We don't get to, let's say too much about that, or else we ask them for more. Going down through, starting with salaries of trustees, and just moving right on down, you'll see there's not too big of changes. There's a couple decreases. Salaries, the big ones would be anything that overlapped last year. Your cost of living increases, those as you go down. Your insurance, Medicare's those, and this will be for every department, in July, these will readjust for insurance, and July is when we get ours. Purchase services, you'll see that it went from 49,000 down to 0. That was the money that we had, that we were using for road resurfacing from the TIF funds. That dried up. Now we just have the road levy money and the road levy 2018 fund, completely separate. That's why you see the decrease down to 0. It's because that fund dried up and will remain empty. On page 3, going down, again, you'll see some decreases. Election expenses, we budgeted $20,000 in there, up from $6,000. That's due to the levies going on the ballot. The way that works is however many issues are on the ballot, the less expensive it is to the municipality and township. The fewer, the more expensive. So it could be up to 24,000, it could be down to 17. We put it right at 20. I think it's pretty safe, since this is a general election. Going down, training services, and again, this board pushes us to be very transparent and forthcoming, increasing that from 3,500 in the current 19 to 5,000. That is our DC fly-in, that's our OTA. We do a Columbus drive-in that Alex will be going to. These are those trainings for any type of development, anything like that we've been sent to. Going down, travel expenses increased a little bit. That's of course to match the trainings as well. Communications, that's our newsletter fund. So that isn't actually our money that we're spending. That's money that brought in from ads. We put it into this line item and spend it out of it. So that's not tax dollars spent. That's money's brought in, money spent. Telephone, you see a pretty big decrease. That's because we're not using fiber. We have a new carrier and got a better rate there. Going down, you'll see just mostly decreases. IT services went down slightly. We have a new IT company that we started in this year, or was it late last year or early this year? Late last year. They've done a phenomenal job. They're more efficient and better cost effective. So you see a slight decrease there, but I don't want to compliment on their services. They're outstanding. Major decrease in supplies and materials. That was from 30,000 down to 15. That 30,000 was your capital budget last year for the entrance signs that will be installed within 2 weeks. Is that safe to say? Within the next 2 weeks, you'll see the 4 main entrance signs. That was out of that capital line item. That's why you see the decrease there. The next 4 are your Easter egg, tree lighting, those money that's in and out, again, not taxpayer dollars. Advisory committee has raised funds through advertisements and things of that nature. One here, supplies, that is, you've seen it, a 0 line item up to 1,000. That's for the polos, any type of shirts like Mr. Hickey's wearing for administrative or elected officials. I don't think we'll be spending up to $1,000 worth of it, but just to kind of rotate in, so there's always some, just like all the other departments have, clothing allowances to promote the township. Going down, you see a major decrease in operating supplies. That's actually our fuel line, so it went from 1,200 to 600. That's because we just don't drive that administrative vehicle as much as we had budgeted for, so we're dropping that down to trend more accurately. The dues and fees, you see it's the same as last year, but more than 2017-18. That's because we added that drug task force $15,000 into that line, so it bumped that up to 28,000. That's why you see that increase. Improvement of sites at 25,000. That's your air conditioning preventative money if you approve it. If you don't, it'll get removed from that line. So all of these budgets tonight are based upon all of the capital items that we proposed being approved, and none of the levies passing. We didn't budget based on any levy money. So if the levies pass, some of this will change based on salaries because we'll be increasing positions in both departments. If you decline any of the capital projects, that'll change as well. We'll pull it right out of the line. Moving on, page 4.
What was that last statement again? If the levy passes, will be increasing what now?
Salaries, because we'll be adding more people. Because we'll put more police officers on the road and firemen. Insurance, again, will change in July. Going down through here, I mean, you kind of see a lot of, you see the training increase, which is pretty incremental, but, you know, $500. We've cut all the rest of these lines down through here. We've tightened the budget up pretty tight. Again, once you're down in the parks, you see salaries increase. That's because we're going to add that additional seasonal worker. Page 5. Again, incremental changes. You know, we drop garbage and trash just because we've trended what we've done. I know this is so painstakingly boring, but we want to be extremely transparent. Each department head and I and Ellen sat down. We went off of what we budgeted for, what we trimmed in the past 3 years, and then Ellen would pull where we're at year to date. That way we could track for next year more accurately. So that's how we gauge those numbers. So even, you know, dropping $177 in garbage and trash line, that's because we pulled what we're at year to date, and we just tightened everything up.
I got one quick.
Yes.
On the first, on page 3, you had travel and meetings at 5,000
Yep.
budgeted. And then go back to page 4, now you got 2,500 budgeted travel and meetings again.
Yep, those are any type of trainings. I know Kelly does human resources training, she does quite a bit of those. Of course, your DC, all the, kind of the big ones are obvious, but then you just have the ready.
Why not just put it all in one big lump sum? Why?
You can't do that
You
because you
can't.
have to have zoning training separate from your training, Kelly's training. So zoning's broken down, that's where you see where it
So-
says 130,
You see the
1,000,
second line
130.
says 110.
That's zoning, that's broke down within the general fund.
So on page 3 at the top, where I said, you know, OTA, DC, that kind of stuff, that's a 110 line, so that's the general. Then once you get into the 130, that's all zoning, so this
Yes.
is all Alex's budget.
Yes.
So any trainings that he would go to, the Ready Cincinnati roundtables that they do quarterly, those type of trainings will all come out of that. So
And
we
then
have
the
to separate.
And then the 610 is the park,
Yep.
all within the general fund.
That, you good on that one? Or understand it anyway, okay. Clear as mud, yeah. Government finances, right? Again, the rest of them on that line decreased. The major increase there under capital outlay from 16,000 to 55,000. That's the mower. If you were to approve that, and the 60, that's a major decrease down to 6,500. But again, that's the tile. So if you didn't approve the tile, we pull that. And that's it. So at the end of the proposed budget, we would be putting $31,446 into the unencumbered, leaving us with 14 months of reserve, which is where we're at now.
So with this budget, so for the general speaking, it looks like, if I read the numbers correctly, our revenue is going up about 9% or so. Expected revenue, our expenditures are, we expect that what we budgeted are going to drop about 10% from 2019 to 2020. And then-
9.6% increase, and we will have a decrease. Yep.
So even with all these proposed capital projects, will be, actually, the budget itself will be less than what it was this year.
That's correct.
Okay. And then, and that is too, I would note with adding Alex's position as economic developer and the system administrator's position as well, we're still able to decrease, we're still decreasing that budget, correct?
The assistant administrator position for Kenny
Correct.
wouldn't come out of this budget.
Oh, it does, okay.
No, but that does include his salary.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Great, I just keep bringing that up. Great, and then like, as you stated, we have about 14 months of reserve.
That's correct.
What's that typical, I know Mr. Nolan with the county auditors kind of talked about this before, what's typical standard that we keep in, that's ideally keep in reserves? I mean, I know there's some different philosophies, but what's kind of,
There's definite philosophies, and Ben's probably going to correct me. So I think Matt Nolan likes 3 to 6 months. That's what I've heard him say in meetings. I don't, and I like at a bare minimum 6 to 9 months, if not 9 to 12. You know, the 3 to 6 months get you to your first draw, which is nice, and that's what, you know, we can kind of survive off of. But at the same time, if we slip into a recession, people stop paying their property taxes as much. So I don't wanna bank on that first draw, so I'd like to get us through. So my budgeting philosophy is to at least have 6 to 9 months. I really like 9 to 12.
But even with that, we're at 14, so we're even kind of way above.
That's correct, yeah, I mean, this is a good time to go into a capital project, because we're at 14 months. You know, because at some point, you have too much reserve, and you're collecting too much.
Well, with that, I actually have 2 capital projects I'd like to see us add and consider. The first one being is Mounts Park with regards to the big lake. I know we've been kind of battling that for the last, I think even before Mr. Rossi and I both on the board with regards to the EPA mitigation issues. I think that's something that I'd like to consider at this point, come out of the general fund, just because we have that amount of reserves. Now might be the time to address it. I don't know if we've had any feedback from the EPA or whatnot as far as.
So we have, and the number you guys are kind of sitting on now is the 80,000-ish number for just the engineering drawings. Is that what you're talking about, or are you talking about?
Yeah, I think that's
at least start with the engineering drawings?
Correct.
Okay.
We had mentioned, though, possibly looking around at getting a couple of different proposals at one meeting. Did we ever do that?
We are in the process of doing that. We also went back to LJB. They have since switched engineers up there. The one who was handling our project didn't fulfill some of the projects they was supposed to be working on, no longer works there. So we have somebody that's new up there. So I kind of took it to them to get this taken care of, and she's working on that now.
Okay.
So after this engineering thing is done and it comes up, they'll probably solicit bids for it. If it's 300,000 to 500,000 to fix this thing, where's that money coming from?
That's what we have to look at. And we've reached out to actually our congressman and our state rep for any type of state or federal funding. We've looked into grants, which the grants aren't looking as fruitful as we thought due to our median household income in Hills Township. However, there is federal funding specific to that. Yeah, it's not a good thing, but.
You've got the money.
Yeah, that's exactly how they kind of view it. But I'm actually a little hopeful with the federal funding, as odd as that sounds. There's some avenues there that we kind of fit with this EPA issue that there's money available. So we're in that process right now.
This problem can't be unique. There's probably places like this that exist all across this country that haven't been discovered yet.
I'm sure
there has to be some provisions for it.
How long is the EPA going to let us sit here?
I don't think they're gonna let us sit too much longer. They've been very patient with us, and I think at some point, which we've been getting pushed a little bit lately, I think at some point they're gonna start pushing harder and saying, we'll let you sit on it longer.
Have we reached out to like Great Parks of Hampton County or Warren County Park Board or Cincinnati Park Board to see if they have any suggestions as avenues to fund something like this?
I haven't.
It's something we can look into and see. I have made other avenues. We had a conversation with Rumpke as well, with and see if we can get their assistance on it. After they looked at it, they didn't want nothing to do with it and touching it. It was out of their hands.
There's a couple of other garbage collection companies out there.
That was one of the big ones that we had that we got suggested to look at. We can definitely look at that as well.
And so, we'll of course add that to the capital projects for further discussion in a work session. If you were to approve that 80,000, anything over 50,000 we have to bid out, of course, which we would do. That would take us into, we'd be dipping into reserves on this, $48,554. We'd still, I didn't calculate the reserves, but we'd still be high 13 months of reserve, probably. So, and I'll have all those numbers next meeting for you, but is that something?
Yeah,
I'd like to look into it seriously because we're going to have to do something.
Okay.
I'd like to know what the final number is going to be to fix this thing.
Okay.
Before we go
I'll
spend a
bring it
whole
back.
bunch of money.
Could that be included in some sort of a research into, before we
Well,
put
the
it in
engineers should have
Well,
come
we're
up
gonna
with
fix
an
it.
estimate on what the repair is, shouldn't he?
We're going to get the cost to fix it when the engineer drawings come back.
Yeah, they
Kind of like
bring
you
it.
have to take this first step before they're gonna do
Yeah, I mean, they usually, part of their engineering, they come up with a,
They can assist us with that. Yeah.
And quite frankly, we're gonna have to fix it at some point regardless. I mean, they're not gonna let us, I think, sit as it is forever.
Okay.
All right, the other item I do have I want to consider for a capital project is, we've had the community center closed, I think, for darn near a year now. Again, I think I'd like to consider go ahead and getting it fixed, investing money, getting it fixed up and back up. Obviously, I think I've heard some community members, we've received a presentation. That's obviously a building that the community cares about deeply, and rather than to continue to let it sit with no usage and continue to dilapidate, I don't think this board would want to see that by any stretch of the imagination. And obviously, I think we've kind of reached that point where we know that the current owners aren't really going to invest in that at all. So I think it's worthy to get that up and get that fixed and get that make that available to the community again. So I'd be in favor of looking at getting that repaired. I think the original estimate was around the $17,000 $17,000 mark, so maybe just kind of budget up to $20,000 to get that building back up to code and use where it's looking presentable and that we can do something with it.
Can that be a project that, I mean, high school, Kings High School might want to assist with? Or Warren County Career Center, I'm sure they're the only ones that probably have shop class.
Yeah.
But is that something that we could involve them to use as to kind of help out with that cost?
We can look into that, but as far as the foundation stabilization, that wouldn't be something they would do. That would be something that the company would have to hire to come in and jack that up and stabilize that correctly.
Is that, Rosie Walker, is that something you want us to look into and we can bring prices back on how much that capital project would cost at least?
Yeah, that's fine, it's just, we can't keep doing a discounted rate though, if they go to rent it out, somehow you gotta recoup it.
Well, I think definitely, well, it's a community center, and that, my mind is a community center, that means tax dollars have already been put into it. That, I mean, to me, that's the residence building. Obviously, I think we do need to kind of put up a system in place where we're ensuring that, we're not losing chairs, we're not losing tables, things of that nature. So it's at least probably cost neutral for us, or at least reasonable. I want to make sure the residents have something reasonable to access. I know I've seen even recently Girl Scout troops and whatnot looking for a place to meet. So, am I going to charge a Girl Scout troop in the township the same amount as I'm going to charge somebody that wants to do maybe a wedding or so from there? And maybe we'll, those are things I don't think further discussion, but I think it's important to get it back up too.
Nonprofits probably should be considered, if you're using it for a party or something like that. I think people would be more than happy to pay a few dollars to use it.
Pretty much all 90% nonprofits like that one.
It was heavy nonprofits.
I don't think it was ever promoted though for anything.
And that's the thing, is we didn't market it very well at all, so.
We get the opportunity to advertise in the newsletter.
Yeah. Okay. Is that it for Jim?
That's all I have. Show me you guys.
I'm good.
Anything, gentlemen?
Only 12 more budgets to go. So the next on the capital is police, but then just to stay in order for everybody following along with their budgets, that'll go out of line a little bit.
Yeah, if you just want to go through them, and then we'll get, at least we'll get back to talking about capital and
Okay.
do that. That's fine.
Well, the next is motor vehicle tax. This is what you pay for VMV. We get it in pretty similar trending from 70,000, 73, 66, 67. Pretty standard across the line. There's very specific things you can use this fund for, a motor vehicle tax. We use it for our utilities. We pay Kenny's utilities out of it because we have to use it for Public Works Department. There's only certain things you can, so that's what we pay. The way we budgeted for 2020, we'll put $3,400 into the unencumbered, leaving us with 38 months of reserve. That's, of course, a much smaller fund, so 34 months of reserve is $202,000 total for the entire budget. Not a lot going on with that. Gasoline tax is next. Again, this is Kenny's budget and Public Works. Revenues are set with the increase in gasoline tax from the state this year. We, of course, increased quite a bit. We took the service worker 2 that you approved in 2018 for this year that we didn't hire and moved that salary to the gasoline tax fund because you can pay for anything that works on the roads, including personnel. So we were able to lower the salaries in road and bridge by adding the administrative assistant there, if that is to get, if that was approved. So we'll add the administrative assistant and road and bridge, but we remove the salary of one of the service workers to the gasoline tax. So that's about the only major increase. Again, we also use this fund for kind of repairs and vehicle maintenance, things of that nature. The one increase, there's an operating supplies. There's not a big increase from last year to the proposed 2020, but if you go all the way back, which was pointed out to me by a resident, to 2017 to now, you'll see a major increase from 21,000 to 48,000. That's our fuel, our diesel. That's why that increase happened over the last 4 years. Capital outlay out of this one. This is where we would put which we haven't gotten to in here, we put the blacktop and resurfacing around the maintenance shop at Testament Park, which is in the capital projects we'll talk about. This budget, we budgeted such that we'll put $1,115.48 into the reserve, leaving us with 11 months of reserve in this fund. Are there any questions on that one? Road and bridge. So you want me to go through the capitals on public works before we go into them?
Yeah, let's go into the capital.
So, the capital projects, one is training services. This was an increase from $1,225 last year to $3,000 this year. This, Kenny and his road supervisor, Don, they do a very good job of doing in-house trainings constantly. The years of experience between the two of them and our lead guy, John Don, for that matter, the experience is just untouched. So they do a lot of in-shop training to the younger guys and the newer guys, but also we want to make sure and give them professional training, certificates and things. So we've increased that from $1,200 to $3,000, and that would also include training, the initial training for the new hire that's been approved. So that's that line. The next one's contracted services, and this is the major capital out of this one, is from $1,500 to $55,000. And this is the road assessment we've been talking about for the last couple of years. And I'm not even going to try to explain it. This is a comprehensive road assessment for the entire township.
So one thing that I've been working on, actually it's been way before that, but trying to get is a road assessment throughout the whole township. Not only to check the roads out, the road ratings, but to look at the culvert pipes, inspect them, have somebody come in other than just myself and my road supervisor to kind of equal us up. This is something I want to try to do, so it probably only be one time with me, but once every 15 years. You have them come in and assess the roads, the guardrail, what should be there, what isn't there. The biggest thing is a protection thing as well for us. They'll actually go in and put it and map it in for you. They'll give you an assessment of what it is, what it's rated, what your roads are rated. We go through once a year and rate it, but they will actually go through and check it and see if we're close to that. It does like they check ball bank repair or ball banking, guardrail, culvert pipes, because these last couple of years we've had, this year we dropped about $30,000 in a pipe that we didn't even have on our repairs or on our list. And that was something just due to our previous supervisors that we had here. That was something that's never been done here. So that's something we're working on improving and stepping up on. We also had the McIntyre Bridge that we dropped about 50 grand on out there. That's preventive maintenance that we want to try to stop from having that happen, and at least know what we have coming up. We also have one that's coming up on Baxter Road. We know that's coming there. It's about 3 years out right now, and that's something that we're adding. But this will help with that. This also helps with, they check we have the sign inventory. They go through and check if there's any improvements that need to be done. I'm trying to remember what all it was. Pavement, signals, traffic signals, guardrails, annual catch basins. They go through and check the catch basins as well on the roadways and in the subdivisions. If there's things that need to be repaired, they look through that and give us an assessment on what we're looking at. Sign inspections, that sorts of things. It gives us a full assessment of it. We have other townships around that do that as well. And like I said, this isn't something that's an annual. It's something we want to look at about trying to size up every 15 years. And this is the time I was looking at trying to get this in there. Like I said, it's been about 6 years I've been looking to try to do this, but the last year and a half, we were really pushing that to happen.
What's the advantages to you?
Advantages is when we actually, for our road assessments, we would have a map that's up there now, or we would have a map that's up that actually can show, we can put it out into the public, so they can see it as well, where the road ratings are, how many years we got left on roads, because there's a lot of assessments, culvert pipes where they're at, and that way when my guys go through and inspect them every year, they'll know exactly where they are, they're on the map, they're GPS, there's some of them that we have that we're still finding. Unfortunately, with the years it's been here, nothing's been documented on. Our road assessment, I started documenting that in 2005, and that's why when I send those Excel sheets out to you guys, that's as far back as I can go. I don't know anything else before that because there's no records on it that we have in-house here. So this would help with record keeping, and it would help with also having the data on the computer and accessible for my guys. When we replace them, they can actually add it to it. After the program is set up, that's setting the program up as well. Once it's set up, it's easy and user-friendly. We have a or sign inventory that we do already with those when we upgraded all of our signs. So this would integrate into that and overlay on the map as well. So we would have multiple uses on that.
So this is like similar to, I'd say like comparable to like comprehensive plan that we're doing for the whole township. This is kind of like
Yes.
a comprehensive plan for our roads.
Correct.
For
Roads, guardrails, culvert pipes.
You say you inspect the culverts and things every year, so why hire somebody else to come in and inspect what you've already inspected? I
Well-
guess is what I want to say.
So sometimes we have culvert pipes that we don't know if the sizes are right. They would help us out with that, help us with if there's anything that's not, the water flows aren't there, it would help us out with that as well. We've been finding some culvert pipes that we didn't even know we had. We try to go through, it's hard to walk everything. They would actually walk every street and try to find anything that we have for as if there's any assessment for guardrails or culvert pipes as well on that. They would help us with that.
So this is a general mapping of the entire township systems of roads and drainage and things like that.
Correct.
So it's talking
I'd
about-
say a mapping and an evaluation.
Yes.
And prioritization.
And then what would it save in efficiency over that duration?
I think just, for example, just this culvert we just did, took about our
Yeah.
whole budget.
Yeah.
And it's because we didn't, it just failed. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
I mean,
and the thing is, for what we use on that, we have about 150,000 a year in there. That took 30,000 out of it right away. We also use that if we have to get salt, that type of stuff, that's out of our permissive, which is only can be used for roadway only. It can't be used anywhere else.
Who's the organization that would do this?
LJB. We have a couple other ones too that we're looking. Like I said, this is assessment. It may not take up to the 50,000. Right now, it's probably not going to be up that high. But I was just what I was doing is trying to make it a maximum, not to exceed 50,000.
Do you get an actual estimate from them? Or do you just-
Yes, yeah.
They gave us an estimate, but the estimate was 55. So if it is over 50,000, I put it up to bid, and we will do that.
Okay.
But right now, we just went to the one that we know to kind of get a guesstimate price.
Yeah, I've had a couple people putting in bids for it now too as well, so.
Do they televise the culverts or anything like that, or are they checking what kind of life's left on them?
It all depends on it. One of them does, one of them doesn't. And that's what we gotta look at, price-wise, what we have. Is it gonna be camera? And that's something.
But I mean, I guess what I want to say, I know 50,000 is a lot of money, but it seems like it's not a lot of money for what they have to do for walking every street.
Yes.
So I just wonder what kind of job you'll get for.
And what we do is we actually put a bid spec out, so if they want to put the bid on that, it has to meet the certain criteria, and that's what we're gonna put on.
So what's the actual end product that you're gonna have in your hands?
So end product would give us a mapping system along with the results of what our road ratings are, our guardrail, culvert pipes, anything that's on the roadway is gonna
That'll be a
evaluate that.
recommendation of what needs to be addressed.
Correct.
Well, I got to throw this out there. With your assistant coming on, couldn't that free up you to go out and do some more of it?
It could, but I'm not an engineer, so.
So back to things I can explain, salt truck. So our salt truck payment's due, and we have 2 more payments left. That's the next from 28,000. And that'll come out of motor vehicles. Out of the permissive fund will become our backhoe payment, and this will be the last backhoe payment that'll be completely paid off. And finally, for Public Works capital projects is resurfacing just around the maintenance building at Testerman. It wouldn't be any part of the park, it would just be around his maintenance garage. Am I correct in that it wouldn't be back by the barns or anything?
It would be our barn and our mechanic shop.
Okay, so it would be back by the barn, that one front section. But that's where Chris brings in all the heavy equipment and anything to work on. So that went from 6,000 improvement sites to 40,000 for this one capital project. With that, I'm gonna go through the road and bridge fund. Again, revenues are set, everything's pretty on track there for the county. Then as you go through, salary increase on other salaries, that's from $1,000 to $41,922. That's for the administrative assistant. That's where that line would come. You see decreases. Medicare, all that stuff is kind of incremental increases, and then everything else is kind of tightened up. We have training services, we've increased that again with the capital training that we just explained. On down, and increasing contracted services to 55,000. Again, that is the road assessment that was just described. Other than that, you have your truck payment and your backhoe payment, and that's it. Everything else has been tightened up and decreased. We're budgeted to save $45,421.15, leaving us with 9.8 months of reserve in the road and bridge fund.
And that would be including the administrative assistant position that we just passed
Yes, sir.
and the proposed service worker that we've talked about for
The proposed service worker, we've moved into the gasoline fund
okay.
to pay that
So
service.
that'll come out of the gasoline fund, so this does pay for that. And we're
That's
still
correct.
seeing a decrease of about 4.5% for projected expenditures next year out of our road.
4.5% revenue?
4.5% decrease in expenditures.
That's correct.
Okay. And then we still are adding about near 6% of the reserves for the
Yes.
road bridge fund. So, you guys, questions?
If I can go right on to the cemetery, since that falls under Public Works. Revenue for 2019 is set at 29,000 budgeted. We're already up to 42,000. So we've well exceeded what we budgeted revenue for this year. So as you see, the revenue for next year is at 33,000. That's an extremely conservative measurement. Along with, we'll have the Columbarium, which has a higher profit margin on sale. I know it's not pleasant to speak about in a cemetery, but it should increase our revenues. So that's just a conservative approach on revenues. But moving down through there, pretty basic. Cemetery contracted services, 1,600 to 2,000. Supplies and materials up a little bit. That's just your basic increases. Improvement of sites we've decreased. That was because we increased it for that Columbarium last year. So you'll see the decrease this year since we don't have that expense. Overall, we budgeted to save $500, leaving us with 18 months of reserve in the cemetery fund. Are there any questions on the cemetery?
Yeah, do we expect this trend to go up as far as, I mean, I know we're not budgeting 2021, 2022, but this is kind of expected trend that we're going to see is we're going to increase our reserves and increase our revenues?
I do believe so. Our, when we increased the fees, the cemetery rates, we've already, well, you see we budgeted 29,000, we're already at 42,000. So we do continue to see, or we plan to continue to see a raise in revenue, especially once that Columbarium goes in.
Does the township then have the ability, with this, if we're going to see these type of numbers and that we're going to see this type of, let's say, reserves, do we have the ability to create line items, say, for example, if the township wanted to provide a discount pay for like, say, veterans that live here in the township, for those that may struggle, can't afford, but live here in the township? Can we provide those type of services and say, hey, we can create a fund that we can draw from and say, normally it's, I forget what the dollar amount is, normally say it's $2,000, but, because we have the money set aside or whatnot, we have this, if you can qualify as either a veteran, for example, or, income based, that we can provide that at a reduced cost.
So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, I think you can set that, but it would have to be established fee such that you have to bring like a DD 214 and show your service, or show your level of service, but we can't donate money to any person or organization. So it could be like, we feel sorry for somebody, so we're going to donate this money. But we could discount a rate if it's a specific line item that's been approved in a resolution.
So we could do that and then, let's say, budget for that reduction, so to speak. It wouldn't be obviously a cash transaction, but we could say, hey.
Yeah, conceptually you could do that. I mean, it's in simplistic form, not too different than what you just did when it came to reorganizing the fees you charge for zoning. If you want to set them based off different criteria, you could. However, you want to budget that theoretically is its own issue. Is the cemetery fund supported by levy? That it's not road and bridge, it's its own thing. So you don't have constraints of like whatever the legislative language would be dictating it, but where there's a way, there's probably a way. We just want to know how to do that.
That might be a question we want to send to our auditors also.
Yeah, I don't know what you gentlemen think, but I think that'd be something, if we're gonna run this type of, uncover, maybe we can budget some money aside to provide this type of.
And the other question is that we have a limited number of spaces left, and what happens when the cemetery's full?
Well, I think that would be,
It might be 20 years down the road, but.
My idea would be, I guess it would be for the residents of the township.
For sure.
So,
I don't have a problem with that.
Obviously, I think there is fine, but to your point, there's definitely a finite amount of land that we have dedicated to that, but.
You do have, in some senses you can set, like you've already done for residents, non-residents, you could, short of some equal protection issues, establish something else perhaps like veteran rates. There's also statutes that are out there that do like indigent burials, where people that don't have any money, if they can prove that for their own thing, the township's required to take care of those burials anyway. So again, where there's a will, there's perhaps a way, but it'd probably be more of a budgetary thing than a, hey, we're gonna take these funds and give it to them.
Right, and I didn't know
Setting
exactly
rates.
the word, but yeah, maybe it's more of a setting rates thing and then budgeting for.
Does this exist in other townships, something similar that you know?
What's it specifically that we're talking about?
For provisions for discounts for residents, for military.
I'm not aware of it offhand. Typically, it's resident, non-resident.
Okay.
But that,
So I was looking for something you can maybe draw from as an example. This is
Yeah.
what.
that's not to
Township
say,
acts
it may be very prevalent. Obviously, my experience is only with my clients, so happy to look at it. To my knowledge, I've not seen that.
I understand you, but rather than giving it away, I think at one point Kenny wants to try and scan Murdoch Cemetery, and so we can find out whether there's
Yeah.
Right.
sellable graves over there that would actually, that would be a better use of the money. If we're gonna build a reserve, we may as well put it to use in the cemetery.
And maybe that's a good first step, and if this comes up, and maybe we talk about it next year or whatnot. So this might, I'd like to invest it in our township, and if it's, can be to, it sounds like if we have that issue with cemeteries, maybe we do need to address that first, but I'd like to at least provide an avenue for residents that live here in the township. They have ties to the township, if they want to be, their final resting place to be in the township. I don't want those I like that if we can help out, not have those barriers put up.
We got that kind of money, we can give it back to the taxpayer. Reduce the fee. Government don't like to give up money
We are on the police budget, so I will go through the police and capital projects. The first is in training services. This is for PELC, Police Executive Leadership College. We increased this by $2,000 and some change from $13,189.70 to $15,521. PELC is Chief, correct me if I get it wrong here, it's right after STEP, but before CLE, in the process of, kind of that leadership, executive leadership college, within our police, and we have 2 sergeants in it right now, is that correct?
Correct.
So, that we increased that line item there. Travel and expense from $1,000 to $1,500, that's just to complement the, help with the college. And then the only, the major for police is weapons and holsters and computer upgrades. That's out of machinery and equipment, and that would be a $28,000 capital project. So the weapons and holsters, they're well over 10 years old. I'm not sure if we have an exact number on them. We'll have to get holsters to complement those. We don't have, that has been approved by you guys, you know, it could be SIG, Glock, Smith & Wesson, anything. So if you approve the capital project, they would come out, you know, demonstrate each one of them with the officers, and then give their price point, which we believe, no matter where we went, it would be under $28,000. But we wanted to budget that with the holsters. And then computer upgrades as well. Most of the guys are using their MVCs in the vehicles, so they're not using their computers here in their cubicles. So we're going to decrease the number of computers here, but the 2 or 3 that we keep, we're going to upgrade those softwares. So that's the main.
Can you explain like you did that?
Yeah.
Joe, about the guns?
Yeah, so guns, like anything else, is a moving part. I mean, the parts, the springs, they wear down from the elements and repeated use. Obviously, then your failure rate increases. I surveyed several different police chiefs. I heard anywhere from 6 years they replaced guns to 10 was about the average. I asked Kenny today if he can recall how long ago. He thinks it's about 2006, 2007, which would make sense because I was hearing about 10 years plus. You know, officer safety and top performing equipment at a critical time really you can't undervalue. So when I got in here, one of the things that I heard was our weapons are getting old, and we obviously don't want them to malfunction at the wrong time. So one of the first things we took care of was with vehicles and some other stuff around the PD. Now we're at the point where the weapons need replaced. This is a one-time, it'd be an expense now, but it would last for, you know, again, probably another 10 years. As technology changes, you have to keep up. They make improvements with trigger pulls. Guns can carry a different amount of magazines. Again, we're not set on a final price. We would get money back. We would trade these in, so we would get money back.
That's what I was going to ask. What happens to the old gun?
Yeah, the old guns, we would trade it back in and get a reduced cost on the new ones.
And how many, so the whole department?
Yeah, everybody would transition over at the same time. We don't want multiple guns out there on the street for safety reasons. Somebody was to, heaven forbid, somebody was to go down, you would need their magazine to go in your gun. If you run out of ammunition, you would have to get their ammunition off of them. It's kind of like when we went from revolvers to guns, or revolvers to automatics. It's just making that same kind of transition. But again, we don't know what, they would come out, they would test fire different types. So we don't know exactly what we would go with yet. Ballpark and figure $500-600 a gun, plus you gotta buy magazines and things like that. Some of the guns these holsters might work for, some of the mounted lights that go on the handguns would still work. So we just don't know the exact figure yet.
So everyone understands how often these are actually fired for training.
So we shoot about 4 times a year as a department. So that math over several years is a lot of rounds. That's just what's required. Smaller officers will shoot more than that. Keep in mind too, the weapons are out, they're in the snow, they're in the rain, and they're in the elements. So it's not like a lot of I shoot as an avid sports shooter. You know, I take my gun back, I clean it, I've had it for 30 years. Right, but it's not out there every single day, 12-hour shifts, that kind of stuff.
Your personal weapon.
Correct. Yeah, right.
I know the other one's just more incremental, but would you care, I feel like I poorly explained the PELC. Can you explain that leadership process?
So there's three schools that you can attend in Ohio. That's kind of put through the Ohio Chiefs Association, professionalized to develop dynamic and visionary kind of leaders. PELC is a 3-week program split up over 3 months. You go away for a week. They're broken down different modules. So again, they build on top of each other. So ideally, you start with STEP, which all of our sergeants, except for one, have now been through. The next one will be Pelt, which is this one, which we have 2 that are due to go to that. And then the third and final one is CLE, and that's a 13-month program. So it's basically modules that are stacked on top of each other.
All right, I'll go through the police district budget. Again, revenues are set. As we get down, small incremental changes, insurance benefits. Once you get down, you'll see accounting and legal fees have dropped, been cut in half from 30,000 to 15,000. The police, and you'll see it in the fire, they haven't been feeling the legal fees like the general fund has. So trend year to date, we're just gonna, they just haven't been spending near like the general fund has. So we're cutting theirs in half to meet more of the 2019 trend that we're seeing. Again, you see some cuts. Tax collection fee, this again is at $26,005. This will increase if the levy passes. So we haven't budgeted anything based upon a levy passing, but I wanted to be clear that that will increase if it does. Training services, you see a $2,000 increase there. Travel and meeting, $500 increase we just discussed. You can see we've cut any increases are like electricity with the 1.9% increase for $200. So budget's pretty tight. Page 19, keep going down. Everything's about the same as last year. I do want to point out other purchase. You see it was $5,300 last year. It's now $6,000. Or I'm sorry, $5,300. It's now $6,000. This isn't our money. This is money for officers' details. So we had X number of officers work, like Oktoberfest, Valley Vineyards. Valley Vineyards will pay the police department. That money will go in here. The police department will pay those officers their special duty. So we just trended off of that, and that's where that money is. This isn't actually taxpayers' money being
So
spent.
none of those details are in our pocket.
Some of them are. Some of them are. The school district requires to be paid through their payroll system. Valley Vineyards, or I'm sorry,
Monkey Park.
Monkey Park, not one. Basically, I think it's the school is primarily, I think it's just the school. Sometimes the construction details, like we run on Zora Road,
Yeah.
doing construction, they'll pay through their company, through the township, money in, money out.
Going down, supplies and materials, you see an increase from 17,200 to 25,000. This is the uniform line item, that general uniforms, but the increase is because we have some of our more tenured officers that wear the shirts like the chief wears, where he wears the vest under, and there's some where they wear the vest on the outside that looks like the shirts. Some of our more tenured officers that wear the vest on the outside, they're starting to get worn out. So those will be replaced on top of the normal uniform this year. Below that, you see $25,000. That's what we get in our LOAB grant, so that's money into the township. And going down, everything else is cut from last year to this year. It's all decreasing until you get down to machinery and equipment, which is the increase for weapons, which we just discussed. Overall, one thing I want to point out to the audience, I guess, is expenditures. You see the 2.7 million expenditures. On top of that, you need to then put 66,000 removed for the house payment, because that's not shown up here. It's shown on the following page. So when you see how much we're spending, you also have to add we're spending $66,437.50 on top of that. This budget, as much as we've decreased from last year, we're still dipping into reserves, $154,528.44, which is why we asked for the levy money. We're still sitting at 6.6 months of reserve, which is more than the county auditor wants, right at the minimum of what I want. We're still sitting okay. If again, we don't budget for the levy, but if it doesn't pass, then we can't get too much higher than this on this budget, and we will go below it. Any questions on that? Drug Law Enforcement Fund. This is, you see the $15,000, that's our money towards the drug task force. Kind of a weird jump to go into permissive back to Kenny, but that's how our budget's organized. Is that all right to just keep going right back into?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. Going down through, revenue set. We did have a small increase from revenue from last year. The first thing right off the bat, you'll see contracted services and supplies and materials. Contracted services went from 5,000 to 15,000, and just under that was supplies and materials, which went from 170,000 down to 160,000. That $10,000 was an offset, so that was from our tablets that we use in the snow plows we just got. We had in supplies and materials because we bought the supplies and the materials to mount them and everything. Now they're more of a contracted service through Sprint on that monthly service plan, so we moved that $10,000 up to contracted services from supplies and materials. That's why that 10,000 swapped there. And then the rest of, which is a large sum still, but the rest of the $160,000 of the supplies and materials, just as last year was, that's where we buy our salt, that's where we buy our blacktop, things of that nature. That's about it. We are budgeted to save $6,075.79 into the unencumbered, leaving us with 19.8 months of reserve. Again, this is kind of like that other one with a high amount of reserve. It's because it's a smaller budget. There's $342,000 in it, so it's easy to grow a pretty good reserve in there.
And can you just, the specific use of the permissive, quickly?
Yeah, so the permissive is only used on roadways. Sorry, I should explain that. You can only use this money on things with roadways. That's salt, blacktop, backhoe, or we could get a dump truck, snow plow, anything that's used on the road, we can buy the permissive. Yeah, sorry, I clarify that. Next is Law Enforcement Trust. To go back to the PD, this is required by the ORC. You can see it hasn't been spent since this budget trends. We're required by law to have this open. Now to fire and EMS. So if you want to switch back to your capital projects, I'll go through those. So fire and EMS, from first is machinery and equipment from 43,000 last year. We increased it 7,050. This is this isn't an itemized list of things we need, but just moving into the new firehouse next year, we know there's going to be some odds and ends that we're going to need to buy when we get there that we haven't really thought of. Maybe some new furniture, just odds and ends, like when you move into a new house. So we increased that to 7,000.
Chief, I remember when we was looking at the cost of the building and stuff, he was gonna reuse a lot of the old furniture and stuff.
Yeah.
And transfer that, so.
That is our intent. We're still going to need to buy some desks, obviously other small items throughout the building, shelving, post beds. Kenny's going to have to put in some airline for our compressor and those type of things that still need to be done.
So it's just not just furniture, it's
Right.
doing some other.
Any questions? And then the only other capital project is coming out of capital outlay itself, and that's new fire helmets and fire gear. We increased this line from $32,691 to $40,000. Not the best, I mean, call it what it is, not the best planning in the past, but a former fire chief bought all new helmets at the same time, so now they're all expiring at the same time. Their shelf life, or I don't know what it's called, service life on a fire helmet is 10 years. We're coming up on it. So we're shopping around. There's different styles. There's Euro styles, which kind of look more like a motorcycle helmet now. We're trying those out. There's some LA style or
Metro style.
Metro style. We're getting a bunch of different variety of them in to see which one we want to move forward with, all of which will be about the same cost. Along with that is the fire gear itself, and It's just, it also has a service life. A lot of fire departments, not to say that this is what this money will go towards, but a lot of fire departments have a backup set of gear. You know, we have a lot of hand-me-downs right now, so if we get new fire gear, we'll still keep the old ones if there was a catastrophic fire. You know, we had to move them all out and get the firemen and new gear for that same day or that same shift. They could have kind of a backup set, but even that's not the primary reason we are running up on the service life of the uniforms.
So then again, in 10 years, we'll be hit with another, I thought you, a while back, you said something about you're gonna try to stage some in.
And we have, we
So many,
There are a few that we bought with some of the new gear, but again, you're talking about, I mean, they all expire. I was just told about this within the last year or so, that we were coming upon this hard stop on the helmets. And so the plan would be at this point to replace the ones that are expiring and then set a new plan in place so we don't have the same huge hit in 10 years from now.
is it part-time, or are they just issue used gear or used helmets or anything like that, or is that all new?
Typically they do, but they have the same service.
Yeah, I understand that. but-
Yeah. We appreciate them just as much as we do the full-time guys.
to include full-time
Maybe I
guys
said
getting
that.
handed
But I mean, the part-timer, everybody shares the gear, I guess.
Yeah, and if a part-timer leaves, we take that gear, we put it in reserve, and we try to hire somebody about the same size. Which is a whole process.
So that's the only capital project for fire. Which I may go into if you're looking. Okay. Fire and EMS special levy fund, we're set. Going down through, salaries, insurance, all that, small incremental changes, cost of living. As we get down, you'll see $20,000 down to $15,000 for accounting and legal. Same explanation as the police. They're just not feeling the same as general, so we're decreasing it based on the trend of 2019. UAN tax collection fee, again, this could go up if the levy passes, so you'll see an increase there from 30,000 to whatever the county sets that at. Decreased a lot, just like everywhere else. Communications, you know, it's a 16% increase, but it's only $250 increase. Communications, that's any of our postage, but it's also any of our fire prevention gear, things that we give out to the kids, little fire helmets, any of the pamphlets and stuff we send out. So a small increase there. IT service dropped on this one. You'll see an increase in dues and fees on page 29 from 4,325 to 6,000. That's actually no new organizations that were joining or anything. It was just the inflation of dues and fees this year. So you'll see an increase there. Going down 1.8 million, that's of course for the firehouse. And machinery and equipment, that's what we just went over in the capital projects for new building furniture and equipment. And the other capital outlay is the 40,000, that's for the fire helmets and fire gear, which we of course just described as well. With this, we are dipping into reserves 2.1 million, pulling that 1.8, of course, being for the firehouse. So we'll be dropping into reserves 211,000. I'm sorry. We'll be dropping into reserves $493,313.92. We are left with 3.9 months of reserve, and of course, why we asked for a levy.
Questions?
Again, where are we going to move on?
Yeah, I just kind of question, this reserve and whatnot just kind of reflects more, once the firehouse is completed, more of kind of what our day-to-day looks like. now without ending the construction of the firehouse.
Yeah, and this was even, obviously it's a difficult budget. Everything's so tight with this one, but also the trend has been very difficult to track because even last year in 2008, well, right now we're paying for stuff out of the firehouse. 2018 we were paying, so to try to get a good trend on what our actual annual expenditures are is pretty difficult. I've gone back, tracked the last 4 years and averaged them. I've also taken the last one, dropped the 1.8 on, taken 2019, dropped the 1, working that way, trying to get at least to a common number for you guys, but 3.9 is a safe amount of reserve based upon what we have. Well, that's inaccurate based on what we budgeted. But to say what 2021 would look like without a levy, it's pretty hard to track right now, just due to the firehouse construction. Chief, is that pretty accurate? EMS billing fund. This one, again, if you'll remember, this is where we bought the port and ambulance. So EMS billing typically is money in, money out. When we make a run, if you use supplies in the back of that medic, insurance is billed for it. That money is to replenish those supplies. We've used this fund differently, such that we've built up a reserve to buy an ambulance. We built up so much, we bought the ambulance and then moved Captain Goodpaster's salary as the EMS supervisor to this fund as well. We would like to continue to have enough money in here to operate out of, but we're not going to, I was going to say we're not going to build a reserve, but we will slowly begin to build a reserve up now that we bought that ambulance and moved the salary over. That's kind of where we're at. That's why this is dropping, but that's where we're at. So revenues are set, a little increase from last year with insurance cost. Training services from 12 to 28, that's for any of the new hires. Repairs and maintenance, we dropped that a little bit, but of course with a repair for a fire engine could be catastrophic, so we think it's a safe number, but that if we reappropriate for that, I don't want you to be too shocked because his repairs can be costly. Everything else is, IT services went up 2,000 on this one, which is the only budget that increased, but of course, it's the offset new IT services. On page 32, supplies and materials, that 3,500, that's our EMS grant, and that's what Chief Reese showed the CPR feedback device. That's what we got this year. So usually we get anywhere between 2,500 and 3,500 in the EMS grant. So that's where that money is. Again, incremental 1%, 2% increases. We dropped machinery and equipment 25%. The only other line down in other capital outlay, it's a decrease from last year, but it's still $25,000. That's for our medic school students. So we have a program where if we get a brand new person, we'll send them to medic school and we'll pay for it, but in return they have to sign a 3-year contract of service to us to pay that back. So if any time they leave, they would of course pay that back. So that's what that line is.
Is that program that was started about 3-ish years ago? Is that
About 2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Yeah. And we currently have 3 in school.
Okay.
So with that, we're dipping into reserves in this one, $104,980.50, leaving us with 3.3 months of reserve. Again, the idea is to keep enough money in here to operate Captain Goodpaster's salary, keep supplies, of course, moving through this fund. And then over the next couple of years, we do plan to build up reserves a little bit.
I got one question for you.
Yes.
I guess going through all this, we hide a lot of these salaries in these other funds. So there's not really a true number. Is there a master list of salaries that, because like you say, Captain Goodpaster's is paid out of this fund here, and then 10 more firefighters are paid out of this fund?
Yeah, so the only two that
Is there
were
any way of knowing
Yeah, we can just add the salaries line, it would be,
There's only the one salary.
yeah.
Right, well, I'm just on this,
Well, just in general, it is Kenny Service Worker 2 will be out of gasoline, Captain Goodpaster's out of EMS billing. Everyone else will have their salary line in their budget, and that's for all of the other employees. Those are the only two, I don't think it's hidden, but I know what you mean by it's kind of like, we move them around. The service worker out of gasoline and Captain Goodpaster out of EMS billing is the only two that's kind of moved. So other than that,
And the
And we can-
auditor's pretty strict on that. So the auditor's pretty strict on that. They have to work for EMS to get out of the EMS fund. Kenny's worker has to be working on the road. So they're very strict.
but yeah, I mean,
I'm not saying, I'm just saying, 200,000 budgeted for salaries over here doesn't show 60,000.
right.
You know,
Yep.
I'm not saying, well, I shouldn't say you're trying to hide it, but I mean, it is.
There's a lot of funds within each department. I think.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, yeah.
When there's levy monies involved in those, it's very specific what those levy monies can be spent for as well.
Yeah, very much so.
Yep.
Was there anything else on the EMS billing fund? Next is lighting district. That is money in, money out. There's nothing to it. Any questions? Next is the road levy 2018 fund. I've said this before. We created this fund. The levy money from last year could have gone into our road and bridge, but we wanted to create a separate fund. That way the residents could see exactly where their money from that levy is spent. And we brought in $885,000 into that levy, and we spent $880,317.14 by paving or resurfacing 15 roads this year. We will not build a reserve in this fund. We're going to spend this money on resurfacing roads like we told the taxpayers we would when we were in the levy. So that's where we're at. We have $4,680.86 left over from last year, and that's kind of what we expect each year, is just a little offset.
And I know it's taking some time, but they're paving now.
They are? And we got 15. Are there any questions about that? The next two are the new building bond retirement and the fire station 76 capital project. That is for this building, which is split between the police department and myself and, police department and the general fund, and the new construction of fire station 76. So that's money in there. I know how painstakingly boring that was sitting in the audience, but this board pushes us four and Alan and all of the departments to be extremely transparent. That's something this board and our staff prides ourselves on. So we wanted to go through essentially every line, every capital item, make sure we talked about it. And of course, we're not asking for a vote tonight. We wanted to present it and give you an opportunity to discuss it. We'll bring it back next week. I'll add in the new capital projects. And again, I want to kind of reiterate that this is proposed. This 2019 in that budget is what's budgeted, not year-to-date. What Mr. Hunter presents is year-to-date. An example, last year, I know the police department kind of gets beat up on their budget. They were budgeted to go into reserves. But last year, if you look at the 2018 financial report done by the auditor, they actually saved $49,913. Same with fire and EMS. They were budgeted to go in reserve. They actually saved $55,586. Kenny wasn't budgeted to go in the reserves, but he ended up saving $153,117. General fund did go into reserves, $20,518. When we bought the Columbarium, we did different reappropriations. So just because it's budgeted this way, every bill has their initials on it, and nothing gets paid without going across my desk, and I have to initial it. Sometimes we cut contracts, sometimes we send it back. We spend very conservatively around here. We budget what we believe we need, but that's not to say we're going to spend every penny of that, and we've shown that in 2018, and we're going to do it again in 2019, I believe, by showing we actually saved money back. So just wanted to reiterate that, and of course.
Yes, I want to thank every department head for getting this timely budget because we've never done this before. And that means a lot to me.
Ellen.
That does. It does. Because I've missed my Christmases to have it done. And I thank you.
Come here, you.
You know how hard Ellen works and how detailed Ellen is on every one of these budgets. And to the chiefs and Kenny, we know how hard she works, and this was given to us August 28th, and we were done before September was over. And that is a true testament. We worked really hard on this budget. We hope that you're proud of it because we are. And Ellen, very well done. That's all I have, gentlemen, on the budget. And thank you for listening.
You guys have anything about that? Just again, thank you to everybody again for putting this together, getting it together for us. I know the board, I appreciate it, I'm sure, I know the board appreciates having this early enough where we can actually have a meaningful discussion and have time to look at it, so that's greatly appreciated. With that, we will go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. All right, Mr. Hunter. All right, Mr. Sutters, you need to report?
Two super quick things, or three. Chamber of Commerce lunch will be held here tomorrow. We're going to give just kind of a township update, similar to what you saw tonight, but we'll be going through that. That's at 11:45 to 1 here in this room. So we'll be holding the Chamber of Commerce lunch. It'll be catered in by the Little Miami Area Chamber of Commerce. Secondly, the fourth quarter newsletter has been sent to the printer by the advisory committee and it looks really good. It should be coming out very soon. And finally, the Overbrook Bridge. We don't have a good update, but I'm getting a lot of calls on it. I think we'll have an update soon. We have a great relationship with the county engineer's office. They are working. We looked at temporary fixes just to get us to maybe get regular vehicles without any type of construction or buses, or if we could just get a permanent fix with funding. So they're currently looking at even moving money just to help us out because it's their bridge. But, you know, it affects us, but it's their bridge. So I don't have a better update, but I'm getting a lot of calls about it. We should have an update soon on it, but the engineer's office is working hard on it. So that's all I have.
All right. Just a reminder, I'm sure there might be some questions about the budget. We're happy to take them. Mr. Sanders will write them down and make sure we get back to you in a timely manner to answer those questions with regards to the budget. Definitely any other comments or questions, we'll be happy to entertain as well. This time though, I'll go ahead and open up the floor to public comments at 8:38 p.m.
Thank you, Amy. 465 Door Road. I did have a couple questions. I'm sorry, I forgot my glasses, so I got the family meeting glasses on. You talked about salaries with cost of living. Is that like going to be written in stone as cost of living? I realize we have unions. So where are we at where they are on renewals and stuff? Or is it written in stone as to where they're at, or we have renewals with their unions, or do we know where they're at?
Just answer it.
That's fine. I think
Generally answer it without specifics. So our police department's reopened this year. Fire department, this is their last year, and public works still has 2 more years. For the chiefs, Kenny, myself, any of the employees that are the administrative staff, they're not unionized. So the board of trustees discusses at the end of the year if they want to offer any type of cost of living increase.
Okay. But like you and the chiefs, Kenny, are contract?
We're contracted. So it's the same thing as the administrative staff. If the board wants to give a cost of living increase, they can. If not, our salary is set by contract. And that's for all 4 of us.
Is board anticipating a cost of living increase, or you guys not discussed that amongst yourselves yet?
I don't think we've had those discussions yet.
That was one question. And then going towards the the guns, when you was talking about the guns, I think, if memory serves me right, it was done through the LOB grant. I know you guys have talked about the LOB grant, and it was done through the LOB grant, and they were all purchased together, along with when the sheriffs all renewed all their guns at one point in time, so that when, that's when the 14 was such a big deal when the active shooters first started. It was a 14 thing in case when anybody arrived at a scene, you couldn't get a sheriff's officer, you could get a Mara police officer, you could get a Mainville police officer, you didn't know who it was, so you wanted to make sure everybody's magazines, like he said, matched. So, is it, the question being, is the low grant still available to use for something like that? Because I know that's something that the police and fire always used a lot, purchase equipment. Is it available? Because I heard it mentioned in the line item.
It is. We apply for the low grant every year and we receive it every year.
Okay, and is it something to use for something like that, or is it being earmarked for something different?
It's being earmarked for something else. I can email you tomorrow with just more
Okay.
details on it. We didn't earmark it for the weapons, but
You didn't
I
earmark
can get you more details.
Loeb's not allowed to be used to purchase weapons.
Oh,
It's not allowed to be used to purchase weapons.
No. And I don't know if that changed since you were a trustee, but specifically, we
Well,
cannot.
since they purchased them 2
Yeah,
years
whatever,
ago,
yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
You cannot buy weapons, ammo, that's the one thing they will not,
They won't let you
Inverse.
purchase
Salaries.
in salaries. Yeah,
salaries,
tax,
yeah,
yeah.
they won't let you do salaries. And then I think the other lobe again was what was used when the helmets and stuff was purchased. And it was supposed to be on a rotating basis using the lobe grant every year. And then my final question is, it seems to be that the fire department, and I love you guys, don't get me wrong, I'm not picking on you guys, is the money was given back versus rolled back a couple years ago on a levy that had passed pretty unanimously. If we knew that we was going to be this tight, if we had projected out 5, 10 years and known that maybe we was going to be this tight, why didn't we wait until seeing if the levy passed before building the building versus going ahead and building it and then running the levy?
so obviously I wasn't here, Becky, and you know that. So that money this process was put in place, then the money was given back, the process was already in place, and that was a completely different board. I mean, that's.
But it could have been all.
If I'm correct, and maybe I'm wrong, is there was an issue with even putting a levy on with that amount of money in reserve.
I'm sorry.
That was a conversation, that was a conversation
Okay.
had with someone long, like over a year ago. Again,
Just so I know that's a question that people will ask and do ask in defense of you guys, that maybe should be clarified, that if it's that tight, that maybe, you see what I'm saying? That people need to hear, is that why, if it's gonna be that tight, why didn't we put the levy on? You know, why didn't we go ahead and build? I understand, but some may do, the public don't, and that may be a piece.
Don't correct me if I misspeak, but Matt Nolan was against, first of all, Matt Nolan was against taking that levy away.
Yes.
His recommendation was to suspend it, and the trustees went against his wishes and the wish of the township residents, and took it away anyway. When the reserves reached about a little over 4 million, then Matt Nolan was concerned with running a levy with that much money in reserve. And he pretty much said that he didn't really want that to happen. So that money had to be, so that money had to be spent down, so the county auditor would.
And it could have been rolled back at that point in time.
Yes, so the county auditor would give his blessing to running the levy. And keep in mind, we wouldn't have any bonds on this had they not gotten rid of that 1 mil. We'd pay cash for that firehouse, but now we're paying interest on bonds because they got rid of that 1 mil levy.
Yeah.
We wouldn't even have to run it. If they suspended it, you could put it back in, but they wouldn't do that either.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'm going to close the floor to public comments at 8:45 PM. Gentlemen, comments?
I think this is the first of a few conversations concerning the budget. So I'll mention this asking for the next meeting rather. But yes, it was boring, but yes, it was necessary.
Yeah, I just want to say, the board, all of us board members, and many of the staff attended the groundbreaking for Little Miami Intermediate School this morning. It's a great event, well-attended event. Encouraging just to see that progress move forward in the township and with our schools. I think over the last 20 months, since Mr. Rossi and I have taken office, I think this board, we've started to build a really good relationship with Little Miami School District, and really, we've built some trust, built some, a good rapport with them, and look forward to just continuing that going forward. And with that, I'll go ahead and make a motion to go into executive session in reference to ORC 121.22, section G1, to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. At 8:46 PM.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Go ahead and make a motion to come, all right, go ahead and make a motion to come out of executive session at 8:59 PM.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
All right, go ahead and make a motion to adjourn at 8:59 PM.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Before now.